What I'm going to show you here is my very worst landing ever. It was very close to the fence at the end, and it happened with a quarterly tailwind in my Cessna 182. I was landing for the first time in ski jump. During this landing, when I got close to the trees, it created a Venturi effect, so it accelerated the ground speed by a lot, and I was not able to have an accurate airspeed to make a proper landing. But since the owner of the trip told me that no matter what, I could not go around because there were power lines and it was uphill and rising terrain. So I landed very fast bounce. I put the airplane sideways to increase the braking action for resistance. And luckily I was very close to the fence but didn't hit anything. You can see here how close I was to hit the fence with the propeller. So in this video we're going to talk about tailwind landings, tailwind takeoffs, and show some airstrips that only have one way in, one way out. Again, this is the ski jump. This is on a nice day. This is a one way in, no go around airstrip. So you land one way and it took off the opposite way. Cessna 172 XP. This is a tricky one. There is a light wind and it's muddy, but you have rising terrain. The rising terrain that airplane is taking off this time is a lot lower to the other side, so the pilot elected this direction. On top of that, this is high density altitude. In this day it was about 5,800 feet density altitude. This is another example of a one-way in airstrip. This is in Idaho. Many of the airstrips in Idaho are like this. So just land when there's no wind because it can get tricky. High density altitude plus tailwind will not be good. This is soldier bound. One of the airports I'm based at, we have to land to the east, and 80% of the time we land with a tailwind, and sometimes it can be challenging. My recommendation is to configure the airplane early for approach under tailwind conditions. The ground speed will be higher, so you have to take that into consideration. The ground roll is going to be longer, so that's something very important to take care of. Another airstrip in Idaho, Wilson Bar. Again, one way in, one way out. High density altitude, and always recommended to fly early when it's not windy and it's not hot. These canyons can get very windy in the afternoons when it's hot. This is ski jump number 2 in Washington State. It's an uphill airstrip, no go around, one way in, one way out. You can see the example of my first landing into ski jump on a windy day with a tailwind, and the results are not good. So after that experience, I won't be going to these airstrips like this, like one way in, no go around, when it's a windy day. It's too risky and it's not worth it. This is Kimbrel airstrip in Washington State. No go around, one way in, one way out. This is the kind of airstrip that you don't want to go when it's windy. It has a ravine and it can get a lot of turbulence. When it's windy, it is narrow between the trees, so there's no point coming here when it's windy. My limit for this kind of airstrip probably is like less than 10 knots, maybe 7 knots, 8 knots. Here are a couple of landings in Fall City. It is important to manage the airspeed accurately because you're going to have definitely a higher ground speed, so you have to make your calculations. How much more are you going to need for landing? The ground speed at touchdown will be greater than usual, and any flow tendency will be resulting in a long landing. The stopping distance will be significantly increased due to the higher ground speed, and in combination with a long landing could result in a runway excursion, so we need to manage the airspeed accurately. Tailwind will also affect the directional control, especially in a quarterly tailwind, and in case of the tailwind airplane, this can be very dangerous, so you have to have your limits on how much tailwind will you be willing to take, especially in a tailwind airplane. Make sure it's not a quarterly tailwind with gust changing all the time. That will make direction and control really difficult. Again, this is a landing in Fall City, and this time in the Cessna 170. Now let's analyze taking off with a tailwind. In this case, this is Titan in Washington State. We had a tailwind of about 10 knots, maybe more. So I choose to take off towards the lake instead of taking off towards the mountain, because if I take off towards the mountain, I have rising terrain and lots of tall trees. When taking off with a tailwind, I try to gain more speed before trying to lift off. Also, you will use more ground roll, so you have to calculate your speeds and your distances for taking off, and make sure you can do it before you attempt it. This is a very long grass strip, and since we're taking off towards the lake with no obstacles, I think it was a better decision than taking off with a headwind towards rising terrain, which will be a lot more unforgiving. This is a Maule M5 landing at Titan in Washington State. It has a little bit of a tailwind, but it is an easy approach, clear of obstacles, and you have plenty of landing area, and it's an uphill airstrip, so you will be stopped halfway. Again, Titan, this is an RV, it's coming hot. He's doing some S-turns, a little bit of a tailwind, but he makes it no problem. Case is Johnson Creek in Idaho. This is a very popular destination for backcountry flying. Usually the winds are calm early in the morning, and then when it starts heating up at about 11-12, you have a tailwind, and it's a wide and long airstrip, so it should be no problem. Since this is a popular destination for backcountry flying, sometimes the pattern can get really busy and you have to follow the procedures to be safe. So here the ground speed will be increased not only by the tailwind but also because of high density altitude. So you will need to be aware that you are going to use a lot more ground when you are landing. This is okay for Johnson Creek, which is very long, but you need to take this into account into some other airstrips in the area. Now in this case we're going to see Stinson in Johnson Creek. He's landing from the other side. He told us that he was a new tailwheel pilot, and didn't feel safe landing with the tailwind, so he opted to land with a headwind. In this case, I agree with him. It is more important to be safe and bend the rule a little bit than risk it, especially since it is a tailwheel airplane and first time in Idaho backcountry, tailwind, the airport is in a canyon, so lots of challenges, and I think the pilot made the right decision. So it is an exception to the rule. This next airport is in Tambor. It's the central Pacific coast of Costa Rica. This is an airport that 90% of the time we land with a tailwind. You can land from the mountain, but only when there is no wind at all. Also, go around will be to the left, but it will be kind of challenging in a heavy airplane with not a lot of power, so it is not recommended. Doing this approach with 40 degrees of flaps, I could figure the airplane from far away, and I'm trying to manage the speed. Hope you guys enjoyed this video. See you next time, and if you want to support Backcountry 182 YouTube channel, please join me on Patreon. Bye.